Maybe also, stepping back, maybe you're in an institution where you're not ready to do any of this stuff with the public. It's too scary, people are too afraid that somebody's gonna make an awful comment on a forum somewhere and you're gonna get shut down or whatever. And so for those institutions, I really suggest, and I think this is great for any institution, there are a lot of ways to use social technology to make what you do easier, especially if you're in a big institution where communication is just a nightmare. So a couple of examples. I was working on an exhibition once where we were making it was a highly themed environment that was supposed to feel sort of like the Middle East and sort of like India. And so we used Flickr, the people who were on the team, to find a bunch of pictures. So these ones in the mosaic up here are pictures that we had tagged off of Flickr in a group. And then you can see at the bottom the artist's rendering of how the final exhibition looks. And you can see these blue boxes around things that we took directly from Flickr. And so you can type in things like Iranian barber, and you will get actual pictures of people getting their hair cut, as opposed to if you went to some more standard image sourcing site. But it also let all of us who were working on the team share a common pool where we could be putting the photographs and then we could discuss them based on this common space, and it wasn't based on us emailing photographs back and forth. DeviantArt, which is up there, is another very large image sharing site that's focused around art. So not necessarily great art. A lot of teenagers use it, but if you're looking for a graphic look and feel, it can be a great place to source around that. Another tool that I often use with teams is Delicious. Delicious is a bookmarking site. So if you, on your web browser, if you keep bookmarks, Delicious works exactly like that, only they're all stored on the web. So I can do things like assign a tag, assign a category to a set of bookmarks like Tech Museum, and then everybody who worked at the Tech Museum could use that tag and we could see all of our links together. So again, if you're doing research with a group of people, this kind of thing can be very useful to have all those links, because I don't know about you, but I really hate it when people email me links, and they do it a lot. A more robust tool that I love using is something called Voicethread. This is an example. Voicethread is a image plus audio tool, and all these tools are free, by the way. So Voicethread, how it works is you upload images to the web, and then you can talk about them, and you can also draw on them. You can see these boxes. So this is an example where the guy up in the top corner, he's the director of the New York Hall of Science. They were working on an exhibit called Human Plus about body modification. And so he was trying to do some very beginning planning around what were going to be the top issues that they wanted to cover around body modification. So he put up some images on Voicethread, and he talked about explaining a little bit about what these images are. And then all these other cubes are people who were part of his team, or we actually send it out to just friends and colleagues for their comment. And it's them making comments about what they think. And in this case, the guy at the bottom who's talking right now, obviously you can't hear him, was also sort of drawing his concept for how we could work with this. So I find Voicethread a really useful tool also for training. I know education departments where they film their people who do presentations on the floor, and then they can use this to pause it and to say, see how this kid, they can circle a kid and say, see how this kid really is smiling here, that was a really funny joke you made. And so you can use it for some asynchronous commentary and sharing of things. Compose your team wisely. One of the top questions I get, especially now, is who in my organization should run this stuff? And I think the answer is, it depends on what kind of stuff it is. If it is stuff where you're sharing content, it should be the people who make content and who share it in other ways in your museum. If it is stuff about audience development, it should be your marketing people who do audience development in other parts of their work. And so I think that in most museums, it means that it's a hybrid team depending on the project. Here's a quick example. The Exploratorium is a science museum in San Francisco, and they have multiple blogs. And so this is the page, or this is a piece of the page you see if you want to look at all of their blogs. So if you think about the blogs that they have, if you look down the list, the first two are by scientists. The second one is by college students who work on the floor with field trip with school groups. And the next one is from an art project, and the last one is sort of a professional project around museums and virtual worlds. Each of those is run by different people, by scientists, by floor staff, by artists, by a tech person. but there's somebody who put this whole page together, and that person's from their online department, and they worked with their marketing team to say, okay, what do we need to make sure that all of these bloggers know so that they're doing something we think is appropriate, and how can we aggregate all of this so it's easy for visitors to see everything we have? But then each of these blogs looks really different. So for example, here's the one from the field trip from the college students, and if you look at this post a little bit, it starts out, first of all, it has a typo, but it says, okay, I'll admit it, I was wrong. I used to doubt the exhibit Talk to a Fish. I thought it was super lame, one of the lamest exhibits on the floor. And this goes on to tell the story of this guy who saw some 8-year-olds using this exhibit, and he finally got what this exhibit was about. And so this blog is the kind of blog that makes some people really uncomfortable because, gosh, it's these staff who are saying they don't like this exhibit. But because it's in the framework of the Exploratorium's whole slate of blogs, it's really for people who want this content. And for me, this is extremely valuable because if you think about it, if you're a manager, you're no longer on the floor with visitors all the time. And these floor staff are often the people who are having the most interaction with your audience. And yet their voice is often not shared, and their information and experience is often not shared, even within the same institution. So for me, this is a really wonderful insight. And I'll make a personal plug that I would love to see a art museum guard blog, because I feel that security guards in art museums know a heck of a lot about what's going on, which is very different from what curators or other people who we might traditionally tap to do these things might know. Engage multiple kinds of users. This goes back to this chart. I think a lot of times when we do these kinds of projects, we focus on people who are going to create things. We say, okay, we're going to create a way in the institution where people can share their story, or they can make something and then show it to other people. But in fact, there are lots of other ways that people like to engage in a participatory way that are not about being that performer who likes to create something. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to look at just 3 of them. Most of our visitors are spectators. They want to check out the content. They may not want to give their opinion, but they do potentially want personalized content. They want to find ways that they can track the content so they know what they did in the museum. There are also a lot of people who are critics who would love to give comments on other people's content, who would love to judge things, who would like to rate things. There are so many museums that have creator-focused projects like make your own video in this gallery. And if you've seen them, a lot of them are kind of crappy because nobody is looking at those videos and deciding, oh, this one's better than this one. I really think that it would be fabulous for some visitors who are not interested in making their own video, but who could say, hey, thumbs up to this one, I think other people would like it. And so there are these other ways that we can engage people in participatory experiences that are not based on making something. This one's really important. I think Shelley's going to talk a lot more about it, too. When we let people participate, you have to respect them the same way you'd respect a curator or a visiting artist. And that's not to say that you need to pay them or you need to put their stuff in front and center, but it does mean that you have to give them credit for what they're doing. And even more importantly, you have to give them a real job. This is an example from the U.S. Holocaust Museum. It's a new project they're doing. They had an exhibition of this book. It was an album of hand-drawn cards written by children in the Lodz ghetto. And so they have this unbelievable list of names of children who had signed these cards. And there are all these online archives that you can use to sort of track down people through the Holocaust. Nobody knows what happened to these kids. And so what the museum has done is they've created this site where you can go on and you can join the research. Because basically, at the basic level, the research is matching names against places. It's not very complicated. So they wanted to give people an opportunity to have a real job that would have a real obvious contribution to the museum. This is a project I did where we invited people from all over the world via the web and Second Life to design interactive exhibits, and we took the best of those and built them for real at the Tech Museum in San Jose. This guy who's shown, he made the virtual exhibit on the left. We brought him to the museum to play with and be there for the opening of his real exhibit. And this is one of the labels in the gallery, and you can see that we're acknowledging him, we're telling his story, and really not just saying, thank you very much for your idea, now we're going to build it, but involving and pulling out his voice in that experience. Don't do your web stuff without connecting it to things that happen in the museum. There are a lot of wonderful projects that connect these things, and if your main goal is to bring more people through your door, it would be wonderful for you to connect what's going on online to experiences they can have on site. This is from the Smithsonian American Art Museum. They recently did this alternate reality game called Ghosts of a Chance. They invited people through the web to mail in real objects, artifacts on these sort of bizarre requirements like memory vessel or necklace of the subaltern betrayer. And no, you don't need to be an English as a primary language speaker to have no idea what that means.